welcome back to SmartSpeak English. Okay, let's dive in.
Great to be here.
So today we're unpacking some source material, some notes, and a script that really gets to the heart of something pretty fundamental in English. How just a few words can totally change, whether you sound polite or, well, frankly, a bit rude.
Yeah, it's crucial stuff.
Think of this deep dive as a quick guide, pulling out key ideas from these sources on navigating those, social nuances in language.
That's a good way to put it. And what's really interesting in this material is it's not just listing polite phrases, right?
Right.
It explains why it all matters and shows the kind of specific impact these choices have. It's like getting a peek behind the curtain on how people perceive you based on how you speak.
Okay, so let's start there then. Why do the sources really emphasize politeness? I mean, it seems obvious, but they suggest it's more than just, like, being nice.
Exactly. The material argues politeness isn't just formality. It's fundamentally tied to how your message actually lands with someone.
Yeah.
It suggests your tone, your word choice. They're not just extras. They actively show respect, emotional intelligence, even competence, especially, at work or school.
Or with elders, the source mentioned that too.
Right. The core idea from the sources is that being mindful, being deliberate with your language, signals respect. And that shapes how the other person sees you.
Okay, so it's impactful. How do the sources actually show us the difference? This is where those specific examples are gold, contrasting the blunt way with the more courteous way.
Yeah, let's look at some.
So instead of really direct, give me that, which can sound, like an order.
Right. The source offers, could you please pass that to me? See how adding could you please just shifts it entirely.
Yeah, it goes from a demand to a request. Much better.
Invites cooperation, doesn't it?
Totally. Or, okay, when you don't understand something, just blurting out, what?
Can feel a bit abrupt, yeah. Dismissive even. So the sources contrast that with, sorry, could you repeat that? The sorry shows you missed it, and could you repeat that is just a respectful way to ask.
And here's one that I think a lot of people find tricky. Directly saying you're wrong.
Oof. Yeah. That can immediately put someone on the defensive, can it?
Big time.
So the material suggests a softer way. I think there might be a misunderstanding. It avoids that direct accusation.
Opens the door for talking about it without blame.
Exactly.
Okay, what about wanting something? Just saying, I want this.
Sounds a bit demanding, maybe childish. The sources recommend I'd like to have this, please, using I'd like to plus that magic word, please.
Turns it into a polite preference or a request, not just a raw want.
Precisely. And the last one here, needing someone to move instead of just move.
Which is pretty rude.
Yeah. The material gives us, excuse me, may I get through? That, excuse me, shows you're aware of them, and may I frames it as asking permission.
These comparisons really hammer home how tiny word changes make a big difference in perception.
They really do.
But the sources also stress it's not just the words, is it? It's also how you say them.
Oh, absolutely. The material is explicit about tone of voice being crucial. A friendly tone, maybe a smile, speaking a bit more softly. It all enhances the politeness.
Yeah.
It even covers saying no politely. Suggests something like, I'm afraid I won't be able to do that, much softer than a flat no.
Right. Avoid sounding unhelpful or abrupt. So beyond tone and the specific phrases, what quip tips do the sources give for making this, a habit?
Well, they sort of boil it down to a few key things. Using those modal verbs could, would, may in your requests.
Okay.
Adding softeners like just a bit, perhaps. Like, could you just help me for a second?
Makes it sound less demanding.
And starting requests with phrases like, would you mind? Or is it okay if?
And the most basic, never fails advice.
The sources really underline the power of the simple stuff. Please, thank you, and sorry. You just can't go wrong. They show basic consideration.
Okay, so we've seen why it matters, according to the sources.
Yeah.
How the wording and tone work. Got some practical tips. What's the payoff? What's a big benefit the sources mention?
Yeah, this is where it connects back to real-world impact. The material highlights a pretty significant benefit. Use more polite language, and you'll find people are more likely to actually listen to you.
Interesting.
They're more willing to help you out, and crucially, they respect you more. It's framed not just as good manners, but actually as a smart communication strategy.
So this deep dive into the source material really shows that mastering polite English isn't necessarily about complex grammar, is it?
Not at all.
It's often about these small but very intentional shifts in phrasing and tone. a practical skill with clear benefits, as the sources point out.
And these subtle changes can genuinely change how you're perceived and how smooth your interactions are.
Which kind of leads us to a final thought from this material to leave you with. If these small tweaks in how you say things can significantly boost how others listen to and respect you, what other seemingly minor communication habits might be quietly shaping your daily life, your relationships, in ways you haven't even really thought about?
Something to mull over, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. We hope you found this look at polite English useful.
Yeah, it's a topic with real practical value.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please do like, share, and subscribe to SmartSpeak English.
And if you have any questions or your own tips on politeness in English, please drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us.